Let's go to Oklahoma City and check in with Holden Krusemark. First off, Holden, will your basketball? I know the Thunder have one loss, but is it almost boring watching that basketball team just win and win and win? They just dismantle the Warriors.
Yeah, but then they decided to break out some Harlem Globetrotter Showtime Lakers stuff in the second half. So that made it pretty interesting to watch, even though they were dominating. I mean, Shea goes behind the back, Jay Will goes no look to Case and Wallace slam. They're keeping us entertained here in Oklahoma City. That's for sure.
No question. And they're doing this without Jada, which has been unbelievable. There's no
Yeah,
question, like when
yeah.
the second best player on this team ends up coming back. But we want to talk to you primarily about this monster football game coming up this weekend as Oklahoma makes the trip to Alabama. We talked about this previously from last year's game, last year's perspective. And really, the Sooners put the nail in the coffin for Alabama's bid to go to the college football playoff 24-3. Both teams completely different this year. What's the mindset this year for Oklahoma as they head into Tuscaloosa this weekend?
Yeah, I think everybody would trade what happened last year for it to happen this year.
Yeah.
It was like, it was essentially pretty meaningless for OU. I mean, it hurt Alabama, but it was kind of meaningless for OU other than, I guess, it got them to bowl eligibility. But woohoo, you got to go to the Armed Forces Bowl and play and lose to Navy. So, but no, I still don't really know how they managed to pull that off last year, just based on the way they played, because then they go and follow that up by looking miserable against LSU in the season finale. So that was just such a head scratcher to me, and they're gonna hope that they have to hope that they can reclaim. They just have some sort of magic spell over Alabama right now, where they just can't. Whatever it is, if it's Venables, if over DeBoer, or
Yeah.
whatever it is, they gotta hope that whatever happened last year can happen again this year, because the defense, I mean, was dominant, and Ty Simpson's a better passer than Jalen Milroe, but they made Jalen Milroe's life hell in that game last year,
Yeah.
and so they gotta hope that they can do that again this year, and I think. Obviously, one of the keys for the Bama offense, the OU defense, is the run game, as we've talked about.
Yep.
Why do teams run the ball against OU? I don't know. But Kalen DeBoer, if you're watching this right now, because why wouldn't you be watching at 3:20 in the afternoon, 2 days before you
48
play
hours
a
away from
game,
kickoff,
whatever. Don't run the ball. Abandon the run game. Just abandon it. Just throw the ball, see what happens. You're going to have more success.
I tell you what, if Alabama hasn't done one thing right on offense this year, it's running the ball. So maybe they just won't as is.
So, yeah.
Abandon the run game. Abandon it. Just don't even try.
Meanwhile, in the passing game as well, though, we talked a lot about, we saw it on display when Auburn played Oklahoma. There was 9 sacks, 10 sacks. I don't know what the official record book says, but this is a team that can get after the quarterback. What do you think the mindset is for this defense as they go into this one against Alabama and a team with a lot of different weapons on the outside, guys like Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard, and in other words, so we'll get to the offensive side for a second, but what do you think specifically for the defense will be the key this week?
Yeah, well, Gentry Williams is no longer on the injury report this week right now. So that's huge for the OU defense. As we've talked about, their secondary has struggled, against good passers. And having Gentry back will be a huge factor, whether he can make it through the entire game or not, because he's been someone that has struggled to stay on the field. But when he is on the field, he's one of their best cover cornerbacks, and he makes a serious impact on this defense. So they're going to need him to be able to. One thing that, maybe isn't going in their favor is the fact that our Mason Thomas and Jaden Jackson are both questionable on that defensive line. Now, if there's one area this OU defense is stacked enough at that they could miss a couple guys and be fine, is the defensive line. But we have seen the impact that our Mason Thomas has had. I mean, Lane Kiffin called him one of the, best players in the country after the game, especially on defense. And, the impact that he can make on the edges has just been vital to OU's attack, especially with, the secondary not, being able to cover super well. The pass rush and getting to the quarterback is how they've made, life difficult on opposing quarterbacks. It's not necessarily what they're doing on the back end. It's what they're doing on the front end and being able to get to the quarterback. And, obviously our Mason made that heroic play against Tennessee, and it may cost him a little bit because he may not be able to go against Alabama here this Saturday.
Absolutely.
Holden, when I watch the Alabama defense, I feel like over the last few years, the one kryptonite for them have been mobile quarterbacks. What have you seen from John Mateer as of late? I know when he came back from injury, it didn't seem like he wanted to run it as much, but I think that could be a major impact on the game here this weekend. How did he look running? I know it was 2 weeks ago against Tennessee, and do you think he can run and have a good game on the ground?
Yeah, and John Mateer had been the biggest question mark on this team, since he came back from his injury, because he just didn't look the same. And it's a thumb injury, so you would, expect it to be, hampering his throwing ability, but it also seemed like it really played an impact on his ability to run the ball. He just didn't see, I don't know if it was maybe he wasn't quite as decisive or he was worried about taking hits to that thumb, but he just seemed slower out there in the run game. And you kind of wondered maybe they're going to, dial back the quarterback run game or anything like that. And instead they just, doubled down on it against Tennessee, and he looked really good running the ball again, or at least a lot better than he had been. And so that was one of the things in that Michigan win early in the season, where Mateer carried the ball a ton in that game. That it happened again against Tennessee. So if you're a betting man, as I know some of us are here on the show,
yes,
I think I would take the over on John Mateer 15 rushing attempts in this game. But who knows? I mean, maybe now that they think that Alabama probably knows it's coming, maybe they'll change it up. But I would think that John Mateer's probably gonna have his fair share of carries in this one, and hopefully Xavier Robinson gets the lion's share of the carries, because as you guys know, I've been pounding the table for more Xavier Robinson, and we're finally getting some of that. So
yeah. They're finally utilizing his legs, and I might have to find a nice number to tease that down. 15 sounds like a lot of rushing attempts for John Mateer. I'll see if I can find a way to tease it.
But he had near 20 against both Michigan and Tennessee.
Very true.
I know that's a large number, but it kind of has been in line, because there's obviously design quarterback runs,
correct,
and then just times when he has to make something out of it, and of course they consider sacks as a rush,
right?
So
right.
So just all of those things factored in, I think he could probably will go over that 15 mark, but we'll see what happens.
I've never not thought about a bet at all, and then being convinced to bet until the handicap right there.
I tell you what, if it does hit, and honestly, I might take it on underdog. I'm pretty sure underdog has it.
Yeah. We'll find out. I'm definitely finding out during the commercial break.
15 is my arbitrary number. I have no idea what the actual number is, but that's my personal line I'm setting it at, and I'm taking the over on it. So.
Absolutely. Speaking of quarterbacks, Ty Simpson and that Tide offense inside the red zone has been a key for this football team. Before we get your thoughts on it, let's hear from head coach Brent Venables on the way that his defense will attack.
Yeah, they just they're very efficient. They, again, stay out of the negative plays there. They've got a lot of excellent play design concepts when they get down into the red zone, and they understand defense and how defense works. That's when I watch them, that's what I see. And so they try to put you in conflict and attack your rules and things of that nature. So they're really smart that way. Understanding what you do. They run the ball in that area really well. They got good players. But again, at 92%, conversion rate, that's really, really high and efficient. So I think they're comfortable in that space. It looks like they spend a lot of time there.
Coach Venables is talking literally about, when they get inside that 20-yard line, the defense being able to step up. What parts of the game, whether it be special teams, whether it be red zone execution on offense, on defense, if you were to point to an X factor from a scheme standpoint, what would you point to as a chance and success ways for Oklahoma to be able to pull out a win?
I think they got to be able to find ways to get off the field on 3rd and long.
Mm-hmm.
That's been kind of a thing that I've noticed is like the OU defense has almost been better when it's a 3rd and short than when it's 3rd and long. And maybe because it's, as we kind of go back to this whole thing of, the defense hasn't been great about stopping the pass and teams are more likely to throw the ball on 3rd and long. That's kind of been an area where they've struggled. They've been able to get defenses, or their defense has been able to get offenses in 3rd and longs, and it seems like too often teams are converting on these 3rd and longs to keep drives alive, and you can't let that happen. Obviously, I mean that's pretty easy thing. You got to be able to get off the field, especially when it's 3rd and long, and they just haven't been able to do that with much consistency this year, and it's kind of been an odd thing because considering the pass rush that they do have, that 3rd and long, you get your pass rushers in there, but they, for whatever reason, just haven't had much success on these 3rd and longs. Ole Miss really carved them up on 3rd and longs, and even Tennessee got a few of them, and it of course it fuels my point of why would you even run the ball against OU, because you run the ball and you get in these 3rd and longs, and then you get a 20-yard completion or whatever the thing may be, and you're like, well, why haven't you just been doing this the whole time? I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a reason that these guys get paid millions of dollars and I get paid thousands of dollars, but it's.
I tell you what, Holden.
At some point we gotta figure this out here, guys.
If Ryan Grubb calls up 50 pass plays this next game and Ty Simpson has 400 pass yards, I'm going to empower you to put your resume in, and I'm going to clip this for you to send out to a bunch of coaches, just scouting against your own team. I mean, this is just great.
I do love it. Big picture talking. Oklahoma and Tennessee was a de facto elimination game. Oklahoma wins that. Playoff hope still alive. Now that said, with the latest college football playoff ranking out, do you think where they fell is a fair assessment for this football team as they continue to try to make a push there to be in that top 12 to end the season?
Yeah, and personally, I'm always a fan of your team getting a little underranked. I think that, maybe while it doesn't provide that much motivation, it gives you a little bit more of a juice that, like, hey, they think we're only, the 12th best team or whatever. This time of year, I'd rather be underranked than overranked.
Right.
And I think the Sooners are sitting in a good spot when it comes to being in the playoff. Obviously, they've kind of consistently ranked Texas ahead of OU due to the head-to-head matchup and everything like that. But I think they're in a good position. I mean, right now they're the first team out, and if we've seen anything from the season is that there's a lot of parity and teams can be beat pretty much any week. So I think they're in a good spot. If you take care of business, you're gonna be in.
Right.
If you lose this week, I still think there's a pathway just because of some of the chaos we've already seen this season, that they could still make it in. But yeah, I think they're sitting in a good spot. The one of the things that I thought was interesting is that I was seeing on one of the ESPN shows the other day is they were saying that if OU wins, Alabama still has a higher % chance to make the playoff than OU.
Right.
And I was like, that seems like interesting. I mean, they'd have the same record.
Yeah, same number of losses, and Oklahoma would have went on the field.
And OU would have beat them.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't understand how you would sit there and say that, but maybe it's because Alabama would still have the chance to go to the SEC championship and possibly win that since they would only have the one conference loss.
Right.
And OU has two.
Right.
But
take into consideration that they won 4 straight ranked games.
Right. It might just be like a overall resume thing more so than anything else. But no, you're right, because if you're literally just looking at records and who won the game between the two, it should be OU ahead of Bama.
Well,
Yeah.
And Florida State's looking like a way worse loss than anything
Yeah,
OU's got on their
that's a good point.
resume,
That's
which is losing to Texas and Ole Miss.
That's a good point, because that loss has gone through the gauntlet. At the beginning of the season, it looked like the worst loss ever because it was terrible, and then they scored 77 points against some team that we don't know, and it was like, oh, that's not a bad loss at all. And like you said, as we sit now here in November, it once again looks like a bad loss, like it did a little bit earlier. Let's